Hey FFBE, what's going on? So, wanted to do a different style of video today, and I have a special guest, Elmsmore, to help me out with this. We spent a lot of time trying to develop what DoomTrain is in FFBE, and if he was ever to be released as an Esper in FFBE, what he would look like and how we might go about getting him. We did a lot of research, we spent a lot of time on this, so hopefully you guys enjoy. Say hello, Elmsmore.
Hey everybody, thanks for having me.
All right, so before we start into like what we thought about and found out about DoomTrain, decided with the board and everything, is there anything that you learned while we were doing this that you didn't know about?
Yeah, well, for example, I'm a big fan of FF6, and I love the Phantom Train, and I didn't know that in the lore, they call them different names, but in the end, they're supposed to be the same type of entity.
Mm-hmm. So what we did find out is that a lot of times DoomTrain and Phantom Train are the same train and actually like switch forms, and FFB is the only game where it actually shows the train switching forms and actually existing as both.
Yep.
Go ahead. So yeah, it exists in Season 3. It's a unique Esper to Season 3. Bruce decides that he needs to chase after his son, who has been taken over by essentially a demon. And he finds the DoomTrain Esper and uses the Pilocyte and turns it into the Phantom Train, therefore allowing himself to ride and pilot DoomTrain. And DoomTrain takes him through different dimensions and everything and allows him to actually chase after his son and hopefully save him. And that's sort of DoomTrain's story in Season 3. So it is the only one that has ever been shown to shift. And I really, really hope that one day they give us the actual Esper in-game. Yeah, so we talked about how it might be a Esper that you could get at the end of Season 3, similar to like how Bahamut is and Asura is done. What do you think about that, Elmsmore?
Well, absolutely. When I was reading through the story initially or reread it as well for this video, I mean, I really thought they would surprise us with an Esper like that, because that's the whole story there. He's like, oh, I summoned this Esper, I'm chasing after this with this Esper, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, maybe it's going to be in Season 3, and sadly not.
No, but perhaps maybe someone watches this video that's working at the company and goes, okay, well, there's some interest out there for DoomTrain, let's put them in. Maybe you guys can share this video with Gumi or Alum or Final Fantasy and, you know, get DoomTrain in the game. Let's do it. DoomTrain Esper when? All right, so DoomTrain could be acquired similar to how Bahamut and Asura are acquired. You could go through Season 3 like an exploration map. Now we talked about that. Let me pull that up on screen. So we talked about a few things. We're going to talk about the bottom of the board first right now, Elmsmore, and not talk about the main Esper board. So the acquisition could be Explorer maps. It would be like in the Far Plane, because he is the Far Plane Express. We talked about it being a forest map, and then a purgatory map, then heaven, hell, and a train yard. Why did we make those decisions?
Well, we went based on the lore that we know from the original games, the 6 and 8, and also how they introduced them in FFBE.
Yeah, because he is an Esper that goes... he carries the souls of those who have passed to their destination. So if you see him as Phantom Train, you're probably going to a good place. If you see him as DoomTrain, you probably did some bad stuff. You probably Kefka'd around a little bit. So he would definitely be able to travel to heaven, be able to travel to hell, and purgatory, and we thought a forest maybe for, you know, the mortal plane. And then the train yard would just be a cool one where you maybe actually have the possibility to interact with him a little bit. Well, now we went for 5 maps as opposed to the 7, which is Bahamut, and the 6, which is Asura, because we thought maybe as the seasons go down, it's one less map for each one. So we thought 5 was a good number for that. Now, looking over his stats and summon effect, why don't you take it away, Elmsmore, on those?
Sure, absolutely. So at his 3-star, so when we were discussing it, I mean, it's hard to build an Esper, and I'm sure the development team at Gumi go through the same thing. I wanted it to be a unique passive ability, so when we discussed it, we both agreed that having a passive death immunity would be fantastic for him. And because of his lore in both either DoomTrain form or even Phantom Chain form, dealing with death, being a Reaper, things like that, we figured out that he would also have like a death castable skill, and in this case we decided to put it within his summon, but just to make it fair, at a low percentage rate, so he would be able to do at the same time he would cast death at a certain percentage, berserk at a certain percentage, zombie, stop, all the status elements basically. But just to keep it fair, we put it at a very, very low percentage. And also him being kind of like a demonic undead type of being, we decided that his damage would mainly be dark. So his castable summon ability would do dark damage to all enemies. And then we discussed as well the type of resistances as passives that he would have. Again, him being more of like a type of figure in between death and ethereal figure, we decided that he would have a positive dark resistance and a positive light resistance, depending on which form he would have. That's the most common or likely elements we believed he would get. And his weaknesses would be a weakness to water and lightning. Lightning we decided because he is a train, so fundamentally like a metal type of being or construct, so he'd be weak to lightning. And water, well, I don't think a train floats in water.
Trains don't do very well when the tracks are wet.
That's right.
And his base stats and attack, magic, MP, and everything like that, why did we decide on those values?
Well, we were thinking since he would be a new Esper within the current meta, he would be on the same level of stats as Ashura and Bahamut, or slightly in between. So we gave him low HP because of the fact that he is not a figure that we believe would have a high hit point value, but in contrast we gave him very high attack and magic because he is the type of being that's going to come after you, and if you resist him, he's going to try to defeat you. And being the type of creature or type that he is, his attack and magic would be really, really high. And we figured as well, because again, he's kind of like an undead construct, he would have high defense and spirit.
So that's what we were posing that we would go for him. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the board. Okay, so here we have his board that we thought could be one of the potential options. Man, there's a lot to go over. So we'll talk about his, I guess we can talk about it in rings. So the closest ring to him, we have self-cast only Berserk ability. This is ability that you could cast on the unit. So it is a unique skill where the unit could cast Berserk on itself, but it is not a passive buff, right? Is that it?
That's right, yeah. The reason being that we decided to put Berserk in is because in the lore that we know of, he usually casts Berserk on enemies.
Mm-hmm.
But we figured as you control his Esper, not to make it too OP, we just decided that Berserk's going to be in there. It's not innately Berserk, so your character is not crazy like Umaru all the time. You can just cast it on yourself for fun. It's like a tier 1 for fun ability.
Mm-hmm. And then we also gave him an AoE stop ability for 15%, and then an Imperil. Because most Espers have black magics or green magics or white magics in some form or another, and so we gave him Imperil as his basic skill. And then AoE stop because he does all status ailments, and we felt like that was a good one, but a very weak one at 15%, and that's basically only useful in arena, so.
That's right, yeah. Just following the lore, just to have something that's in his in his board that's unique to him and respect to his lore.
Okay. And then on the next tier, I guess I'll start at the top. We have Banishiga. Now, why do we pick Banishiga for him? And Bioga, I suppose.
Well, being that we were discussing that being that is he is like an undead type of being, etc. He could be either a not necessarily benevolent, but like a creature of light, depending if you're going to heaven or if you're going to hell. That he would have a mix of light damaging abilities and dark damaging abilities. So that's the reason why we went with Banishiga as one of the skills to again follow his lore, that he would have a light damaging ability.
Okay, and then you get, of course, Bioga. Impact also follows a very similar theme. Impact giving him a dark damage and break. That's what the skill does. It is so it's attack, defense, magic, and spirit, and it does dark damage at the same time. So an impact, you kind of got to get hit by the train. It all sort of thematically makes sense. Then we've got more stats going around that ring, and we've got light resistance by 5%. So just an additional, like every other Esper has, is the resistances or the percents. Now everything on here can move. We could move something to further over or on the outer ring. These things don't have to be in that location. Usually, like something like light resistance 5% goes in the outer ring, but we're not the experts at this. This is our first Esper.
This is all in good fun. This was just theory crafting, and I noticed that you still forgot to add the little connector on the bottom right.
I know. There's no way to get dark resistor magic, or you just can't get it. You just can't get it. It's not there. All right. So starting off at the next tier, the next circle, you would have Bad Breath. Bad Breath because it does all status ailments. Is that right?
That's right. Bad Ref is something we're familiar with in the game. If I'm not mistaken, Riku, the original yellow 4-star Riku's TMR, does Bad Breath, and we have a couple of other iterations of it, and it does all the status elements.
Yeah, and so him doing all status ailments, which is very much his thing, it's a great ability for him to have. Then Dispel. Dispel is great for him because sort of what do you do whenever you see a train? You like have no weakness, no anything. The train's gonna hit you. So or him being able to like remove a zombie that's on somebody or something like that. Whatever is afflicting you before he reaps your soul or whatever. So Dispel seemed to fit within his kit.
Yep. Also, that when we were discussing it, it's also the fact that it's not something that's across the board for all Espers. Mm-hmm. So we figured that it's something that's irregular and unique enough to also give it to this brand new Esper.
Right. And then moving around, I'm just sort of glancing over because I think you already talked about the stats. So I don't think I need to go over the defense, attack, and magic. We, didn't put a lot for HP, but we put in a lot for attack and magic, and then a little bit less for defense and spirit because it is a train and it is tanky, but it has almost no HP stats.
Yeah, and that's just standard for Espers. What I think we would discuss next would be mainly the killers and why we chose them.
Okay, so I'm going down to the killers. Yeah, let's do that. Let's talk about the killers in general. So what killers did we choose?
So I recommended, and then we both worked it out together, that we would go with Undead, Machine, and Fairy.
Okay. So altogether, it's 125% for Undead, 125% for Machine, and 125% for Fairy. We went straight across the board with 125% for all three of them.
Yeah, and why did we decide on Undead, Machine, and Fairy?
Undead is Undead Killer because he's anyone he reaps is obviously passed on, and if they're for some reason still existing on the mortal plane, he's going to be able to take care of that. Machine, because he is a machine, and usually things have killers of whatever they are, like for instance, Ifrit does Beast or Tetrasilphy does Bird Killer. And likewise, also he is a spirit, therefore fairy killer. So spirit machine, and then the undead. It all just very much feels like thematically what would comprise the Phantom Train or the Doom Train.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we went through, and we believe that that's what would matter most to his type of races would be undead, machine, and fair.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I can't agree more. And his passives, less for the light resistance and more for the dark resistance. Finish off this circle. We threw Osmos on there because Osmos is the one that steals HP.
I always get it confused. I thought Osmosis is MP, isn't it?
Osmos is the MP one, right? Okay. So Osmos, yeah. Very much because he doesn't really steal HP, but he can definitely steal your ability to want to be able to do things. Therefore, your MP, your will, your soul.
Exactly. Yep. It's a way for him to weaken his enemies.
And then he has a single target death skill, which is only available from currently as an equipable Ring of the Lucy. Okay, and then that completes that circle. And then from the next circle, we have our Dark Resistance more, the ST Reflection boosts, which are standard. We have a skill for increased light and dark resistance by 50%. And you wanted to name it Caboose.
Yeah, just for fun. We were talking about it and we didn't know what name they call it, so just for fun, you know, matching the train. So Caboose.
Yeah, it's fun because, and you really like this skill because Anima has a skill like this. And who's the other one?
Alexander.
Alexander.
Dark version 70% dark resistance, and Alexander has 70% light resistance. So we figured because we came up with him being a light and dark being, and just to kind of balance it out, we decided to go with 50-50.
We also gave him 10% nodes for spirit and defense, similar to like what Golem has. So those are kind of nice just to round out those nodes. We gave him an auto shell because it seems good to have just a little bit of extra defense. Or shell's defense, right?
Spirit.
Spirit.
Shell.
Thank you. A little extra spirit because he is a spirit. Then he has the evoke damage, the ST reflection boost again, and the decreased chance of being targeted by 100%. Why did we go with that one?
Well, we figured that because he's an ethereal being, he would be hard to hit, and based on the lore, you never see him coming. That's his lore, that you never see him coming. So that's the reason why we decided to give him 100% reduction to being targeted, because you don't see him coming. So how can you hit something you don't see coming?
Yeah, he's one of the hardest espers to find because he travels dimensions and he just kind of like appears in a dimension, goes through it really quickly like a train, and then he's gone. So he's incredibly hard to find or target. And then Guts. Guts is just great. And there's very few espers that actually have it, but we did throw it as the 30%, so you do have to be a little bit high to have it. So that's nice.
Yeah, since it's a train, right? It's tanky. So we gave him tanky ability.
If you're riding inside of it, then, you know, you're definitely going to have that shell around you, so that's nice. We gave him Holy, because to give him a higher tier magic skill, just like we gave him Bioga and Banishiga earlier, sort of something to counteract the death. And then we also gave him Doomsday on the same tier, so he has a dark skill and a holy skill, the same classification, because he does exist in both worlds. And then his last skill that we gave him, do you want to talk about this one? The triple chain skill?
Yeah, so we wanted something unique for him. So we were discussing it, like, just to, again, differentiate him from other espers. We're like, what could we give him to make him unique? So we discussed a couple of different iterations of it, and we decided that, you know, there is two materias, Blue Wave and Scarlet Wave, fire and water. we decided why not have a skill like that on an Esper. So at the very worst, he could, at least maybe on a support unit or whatnot, help with chaining. So we decided to go with Triple BS because Leviathan and Kukuryu have Flood as chaining. So we decided for him to be more recent, more usable in today's meta. We decided to go with a Triple BS skill.
BS is one of the easiest things to chain, and we just don't have a Triple BS Dark Chain skill, so that would be amazing. I would definitely welcome this on any Esper board or even an equipable, but an Esper board is great. With things like Flood got used for so long, I remember.
Yep, Leviathan and Kokuryu together to help chain, just to have a finisher go into it.
I remember every like free-to-play or help video that was coming out for like 2 years was Leviathan and Kokuryu together.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, because the only other alternatives were some limited time items that if you didn't have, well, too bad. If you don't use those Espers, you can't chain. It's very hard to chain with, depending on your team composition, obviously.
Yeah, so I think that DoomTrain could be very possible in FFBE. I think that there are lots of different options that if he was brought in, that could be pursued. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we both heard that on JP they are coming up with new Espers. But what about, we could have a Glex Esper? Who knows?
Well, if you remember, it wasn't until we were kind of like far into season 2 that they released Bahamut, and it wasn't until we were kind of far into season 3 that they released Asura. So perhaps they're waiting until we're a little further into season 4 until they release DoomTrain.
I would welcome it, absolutely. Even with the announcement of the other Espers that they're introducing to the game, I would absolutely welcome this as a surprise.
Well, I think that they're introducing Garuda as an Esper because from what I can tell from Final Fantasy XVI's trailer, Garuda seems to be a large part of the trailer, I think. Nothing's really like, they don't like say names in the trailer of any of the Espers, but I feel like I can see a lot of Garuda in there. And they might want to be having more tie-in with that. So I feel like that's why that's in there. So maybe we'll be seeing more Espers because the Esper team is back to work again.
That'd be great. Again, give me new Espers. I welcome any of them.
I think they're amazing, and they're a critical part of the Final Fantasy lore. And to not receive any more is just it's a crime. It's very sad to not get new Espers. And I would very much enjoy to see DoomTrain. So Gumi, if you're listening, we want DoomTrain or Phantom Train, whichever you want to call it.
Yeah, it's already mentioned in the story. Just bring him out.
If they decided to throw away something that we did and put in something like a Sabin suplex somewhere on the board, would you agree to that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, any throwback to FF6, like I said earlier, FF6 is my favorite, personally, my favorite Final Fantasy. So any throwback to that would be absolutely welcome. It would be hilarious seeing a huge Esper train suplex an enemy. That'd be great.
I would definitely enjoy seeing a new animation for DoomTrain, because the last time we saw DoomTrain seriously animated, like the CG animation, was Final Fantasy VIII, and that's a very short animation.
That is true, and in the story, you do see him, and you do encounter him, and you do fight him, but it is not a CG animation.
He just kind of travels down the trail of lights, and then that's it. All right, any closing thoughts for DoomTrain other than Gumi, please?
Other than Gumi, please? No, I like I said, I'd be super hype if they ever announced it, and I'd totally welcome it.
I think it would be great, and with those killers of Machine, Fairy, and Undead, I think he would be one of the most versatile Espers that we would have.
He would be meta, absolutely. Like, we built him to be meta, just not too overpowered, but he is absolutely a meta unit, meta Esper to have with the chaining ability that we gave him, or however Gumi decides to make him. But give us another Esper with multiple killers, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, I love seeing things more from the Final Fantasy Square Enix lore come into the game, and I definitely would welcome Phantom Train as a new Esper.
Totally.
All right, thanks for helping me out with this one, Elmsmore.
Thank you for having me. Much appreciated.
Right, Gumi, win!